Good morning, everyone. A very warm welcome this morning to Belfast Harbour office. It's wonderful to see so many of you here for what is a really significant moment for Belfast Harbour, for this city, for the wider region and beyond. You'll have seen there in the opening film, this harbour has always been a place of ambition and resilience and forward momentum. So that short snapshot of its impact, past and present, is the perfect way to begin the conversation today about its future. So that is why we are all here today. Today marks the launch of Belfast Harbour's new Masterplan, Horizons of Opportunity. So this is a long-term vision that sets out how this place will continue to grow, adapt, and be shaped over the next 25 years and beyond. It is a plan built very much on partnership, on innovation, and a deep commitment to Northern Ireland's prosperity. So we're thrilled that you've all joined us here today. We're actually joined this morning by around 150 of Belfast Harbour's key stakeholders. We have leaders from government, we have leaders from industry, education, infrastructure, and indeed the wider business community, customers. We've got previous former commissioners from the harbour as well. So you're all extremely welcome. Before we move into the formal proceedings of the day, a few housekeeping points. Today's event is being recorded and streamed, and you'll be glad to hear the planned garden party will not be going ahead now. I don't know about you this morning. I thought, my goodness, what are we going to wear? But we will be celebrating afterwards, but inside rather than outside. So to formally open today's proceedings and to take us through the agenda for this morning, it is my pleasure now to invite someone to the stage who has played a pivotal role in shaping this very moment that we've reached today. Dr. Teresa Donaldson is not only the first woman ever to serve as chair of the Belfast Harbour Commissioners, she's now the first woman to have been reappointed to her role. And her leadership and vision, her commitment to this partnership that I talked about earlier, has been central to the development of the Masterplan. She's waiting in the wings. Please welcome the chair of Belfast Harbour Commissioners, Dr. Teresa Donaldson.
Well, what an event, what an occasion, and what a lovely introduction from Sarah. Sarah, thank you so much. It's wonderful to have you with us today. So it's wonderful that we've reached this moment in the development of our master plan, and it's an honour and a privilege for me as chair to welcome three of our most senior political leaders, our First Minister, our Deputy First Minister, and our Minister for Infrastructure. And I just want to thank them all for taking the time out of their busy schedules to join us this morning. There's lots going on in Northern Ireland this morning, lots of places that people are going to, so we'll see people coming and going in the room. And I'm really looking forward to hearing from you shortly. But I'm also delighted to see so many partners, colleagues, friends of Belfast Harbour, representatives of other trust ports at this proud and important moment as we launch our 25-year master plan, Horizons of Opportunity. And I know there are people online listening as well, and it's wonderful to have you listening to this event. So many thanks to board colleagues whose hugely important role is, as Sarah has just mentioned, is to hand over stewardship of the harbour in a better way than how it was received. Their scrutiny and expert oversight shaped the development of the master plan, and this is a first for Belfast Harbour. I also want to pay a tribute to Natasha Saee, our Corporate Affairs and Engagement Director, to Eugene McBride, our Infrastructure Director, to Kyle Flanagan, our Technical Lead, for their work alongside the team of consultants from Haskening, ensuring that this is a robust, technically credible plan aligned to future demand and with measurable timelines. All the work has been successfully managed by our Chief Executive, Joe O'Neill, who will present the detail of the plan shortly. And following Joe's presentation, there will be a Q&A panel before moving to lunch. I also want to mention Brendan Donnellan, who's in the room with us. Brendan has been a fantastic support for Belfast Harbour in all of our strategies, so thank you, Brendan. So it's almost 5 years since my appointment. I can't believe it. So as Sarah said, having been reappointed as chair of Belfast Harbour Commissioners, and naturally enough, I've spent quite a bit of time in this building, but I'm still in awe of its history and its majesty. As a working port office, it is splendid, but it is also unique. And while there is undoubted grandeur and celebration of previous generations, you can see it everywhere, of harbour commissioners, there's little evidence that women impacted the proud history of Belfast Harbour. The history of the port is well documented in Titanic Port. It's a wonderful tome that was written by Alf McCreary, who's father to Matthew, one of our comms directors. And at the scenery of the establishment of the Harbour Commissioners in 1985, there were no females on the board. And in 2010, the sole female commissioner described herself as the token woman on the board. But I just want to assure Minister Kimmins, who appoints the board, there are no token women on Belfast Harbour Commission. There are some really capable, strong females in our workforce as well as on our commission. We have come a long way. And it is particularly pleasing that women are so well represented at such a senior level today as we open a new chapter with the launch of our Port Masterplan. So a Port Masterplan is essentially a long-term strategic framework. It can be anything from 5 to 25 years. Such long-term planning is particularly important for critical infrastructure where there are serious consequences if the utility fails or fails to take account of factors that could impede the delivery of expected levels of service to those dependent on it. And that's all of us dependent on our harbours. So handling 70% of Northern Ireland's seaborne trade and around a quarter of all trade on the island of Ireland makes Belfast Harbour undoubtedly critical infrastructure. Working so interdependently with critical partners such as Belfast City Council, Belfast Harbour User Group and government departments, it's vital that the requirements for port development are clearly stated in plans that take account of external as well as internal changing circumstances and clearly articulates the challenges and opportunities that port development brings. As a trust port with no shareholders, it's particularly important that we demonstrably manage this unique and invaluable asset in the most transparent and ambitious way possible. The process of developing this master plan has delivered a 25-year roadmap and assurance to the board of the Harbour Commissioners that our planned investments are appropriate to our region, our customers, our stakeholders and our communities. And as you will hear, the Horizons of Opportunity Master Plan is evidence-based, is divided into 3 horizons, the first being the Advanced Regional Prosperity Base, and that concentrates on the delivery of our corporate plan objectives. But this 25-year forward look is firmly rooted in port primacy. You'll hear more later in the morning about the 1.3 billion investment we're intending that will secure this port for generations to come, and also the importance of reclassification to enable trust ports to fund important developments that will contribute to prosperity across Northern Ireland. By putting the full scale of our 2,000 acres of land and 1,000 acres of water to work, we are ensuring that Belfast Harbour not only remains one of, but becomes the most resilient, efficient and competitive gateway on the Dublin to Belfast economic corridor, and an even stronger and more critical part of the wider UK and Irish maritime network. This investment will underpin an estimated 12 billion in trade-related gross value added and support around 5,500 construction jobs over its lifetime. There's so much more to be said about the 25-year vision we're launching today. However, it's important that I make way for our ministerial speakers who all have very tight time pressures. So it's my great pleasure to welcome to the stage First Minister Michelle O'Neill to the podium, to be followed by Deputy First Minister Emma Little-Pengelly, and then by the Infrastructure Minister Liz Kimmins. Thank you.
We come in at 3:00 this morning. Great to be here at such a hugely positive event. Thank you, Teresa, for your comments and for your warm welcome to yourself and Joe for all the work and getting us, and the whole team for getting us to this juncture today. I'm very pleased that this morning. This is my second event this morning, both of which were very positive announcements in terms of growing our economy and creating opportunities for people. And days like that don't come around too often, so I'm really relishing in today. But huge well done to everybody for what's been achieved here thus far. I'm very interested, Teresa, just to listen to some of the journey of the Harbour Commission. Like, I've been in this building so many times. I've never actually, usually here to meet and to talk about things, never actually taken a chance to actually really soak in what actually is here, and it's so beautiful, and maybe I'll get a chance to do that at some stage in the future. But I think you've reflected on a very much on a journey that the Commission has been on over many, many decades, and look at what has been achieved thus far. So therefore, this next stage of this journey is something that I think is so immense and so positive for us all. And I think we're all going to reap the benefits of what is being set out here today. And whilst you can talk about plans, nothing captures something as good as it does whenever you look at the video that was just shown. And for me, that really encapsulates really the heart of everything that's trying to be achieved here. When you see a vision come into reality, when you can see the projects that will be developed, whenever you see just what can come in the years ahead, you really do get a sense of the scale of what's going to be achieved here. And for me, I reflect on that as really transformational, hugely transformational. And I think that today feels so positive for us all in so many ways, because it's not just a plan for the port. For me, it's much bigger than that. For me, it's a plan for our economy, it's a plan for our communities, it's a plan for our people, it's a plan for the kind of future that we're trying to build here. And that is something that we all want to see much, much more of. As Teresa, referenced the scale of what is achieved here already in this port, already handling 70% of our seaborne trade, a quarter of all seaborne trade across this island, moving across through here, worth over 9 billion to our economy, 155,000 jobs across 750 businesses. That is some achievement. It doesn't happen by accident. It happens by a lot of hard work. But it also highlights for me, once again, why the Belfast Harbour is not just critical to our infrastructure and to our economy here in the north, but it's critical to the whole all-island economy as well. And when you look at the trade volumes that are set to double by 2050, I think the question that poses for all of us, are we ready for it? Are we ready for that scale of ambition? This master plan says yes, and I'm behind that master plan. So I think that's the project and the plan that we all need to lean into each other and to work and to deliver and play our part respectively in relation to that. But I think that's why it matters so much now that we do have a unique selling point here. Not to delve into all the good or for bad of Brexit and everything else. I think the fact that we have this unique selling point now really allows us to lean into something that other places would love to have the same access that we have to both the EU and the British markets, and that's something that is a strength for us. Over 500 million customers in our doorstep, and how do we use that opportunity? It has to be to ensure that we grow and create prosperity for everybody here, and that's something that I'm quite excited about. And the harbour itself is the gateway for all of that, to make it real and to make it real every single day. What I do think is remarkable about the plan also is its focus on people. And I think that is so important, on skills, on jobs and on new homes and regeneration, and ensuring that that growth is felt by everybody right across our community. And we are here because we want to play our part. We know that it takes heavy lifting from everybody to work together and to get behind the plan. And we want to do everything we can. And even just in speaking to Kiva Archibald, our Minister for the Economy this week, she was talking about delivery with a new port operations apprenticeship alongside existing higher level apprenticeships in logistics, engineering and supply chain. And that's a real pathway into skilled and well-paid jobs. And I think that's the kind of pipeline that we need if we're going to be able to create the opportunities that are set out in the plan. And I think whenever we all, as I said, lean in together, I think that's how we make all of this come into reality. And I think also within the plan, I think there's things that I reflect on that I think are quite exciting, and that is about the sustainability ambitions, because it's about bringing emissions down by more than 70% since 2015, on track to be the first net zero port operator on the island of Ireland, and a clean energy hub in the future. So that's great. That's great for the environment, it's great for business, and it's great for our people. And I also want to mention Liz Kimmins, our Infrastructure Minister, who will speak shortly, and not to steal her thunder, but certainly working with the Harbour Commission here, she's bringing forward a piece of legislation that will obviously be crucial in terms of unlocking the investment that this plan needs, because that's how we can deliver, trying to create the conditions that allow you to deliver or to, I suppose, reach for what you've set out in your plan. But for me, that speaks and underlines very much why we always need very strong government and industry partnerships, that whenever we work together, we will all achieve much, much more. So today, for me, whether you're from the harbour estate, from a business that depends on this port, where you're a community that's going to benefit from what's being built here, there's certainly something for all of us in this. It's a bit like the Late Late Show, there's something for everybody in the audience. And I just want to finish by saying well done to everybody that's made this happen. Good luck. Let's continue to work in partnership. Let's make sure that make this plan a reality. And I certainly want to be part and parcel of all of that. And I know certainly across our executive, we all want to be part and parcel of all of that and this positivity. So thank you very much and good luck.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. This event this morning is not just simply to unveil a master plan, but to declare something larger, a belief in the future of Belfast. A belief that this harbour, forged through generations of hard work and resilience, can continue to shape not only the skyline of the city, but the future for everyone who calls this place home. Teresa, Joe, colleagues, partners and friends, thank you for your leadership. And thank you for the invitation to join with you today, because moments like this really do matter. They matter because they remind us that progress does not happen by accident. Progress happens when people choose partnership over division, ambition over complacency, and long-term vision over short-term thinking. And that is exactly what the Master Plan represents. Belfast Harbour has always been more than docks and cranes and cargo, as important as those things are. It has always been a gateway between Northern Ireland and the world, between our industrial past and our modern future, between possibility and achievement. And let us understand the scale of what this place means. Belfast Harbour is one of the great economic engines of the British Isles. Every single year, it handles 26.7 billion worth of goods. It supports 8.8 billion in gross value added, more than 15% of all regional economic output. It accounts for 67% of all port traffic in Northern Ireland, moving around 24 million tonnes of trade annually. And behind every tonne moved, every container shipped, every vessel welcomed into these waters, there are livelihoods sustained, businesses strengthened, and futures built. Thousands upon thousands of jobs across our economy depend on the success of this harbour. More than 20,000 across the harbour estate, and some 155,000 across the wider economy. That is not just infrastructure, it is the cornerstone of our local economy. And what makes this master plan so important is that it recognises that economic growth means little if ordinary people cannot see it in themselves a benefit. Growth must be felt in the community surrounding the harbour. It must be measured not just in the balance sheet, again, as important as that is, but in whether a young person living here can find a skilled apprenticeship, whether a family can afford to stay in the community they love, and whether workers can build a career with purpose. And that is why access to opportunity matters so deeply. Because the jobs of the future in logistics, engineering, tourism, maritime services, defence, advanced manufacturing and clean energy cannot become the opportunities for the few. They must become the pathways for the many. And that requires partnership. Partnership between government and business, partnership between the harbour and the communities that surround it, partnership between employers and educators. This is how lasting prosperity is built. And we know that the opportunity ahead is immense. Trade through Belfast Harbour is projected to rise dramatically in the decades ahead, potentially reaching as much as £46 billion annually by 2050. But growth on that scale will not happen on hope alone. It requires investment, it requires modern infrastructure, it requires boldness, and above all, it requires the confidence to act now. Because as I've said many times before, the economies that succeed in the 21st century will not be those that stand still. They will be the ones that are willing to prepare for the future before the future arrives. I am pleased that this master plan also understands something else, that regeneration is not merely about buildings, it is also about belonging. The harbour estate sits alongside proud communities in the very heart of this city. So when we talk about development, we are talking about the kind of city Belfast chooses to become. Because a thriving harbour can also create a thriving city. And of course, we already see what some of that investment has achieved and what that vision can produce. We have seen what strategic investment looks like, not simply preparing for next year, but preparing for the next generation. And we know that at the very heart of that is partnership. When institutions work together, confidence grows stronger. So let me close with this. The master plan is ultimately about confidence. Confidence that Belfast can compete, confidence that Northern Ireland can be world leading, confidence that investment will deliver results, and confidence that our young people can build their futures here at home. That is the task before us. And if we work together with ambition, with partnership, and with a belief in this city and Northern Ireland, then Belfast Harbour will continue to do what it has always done: drive enterprise, create opportunity, connect us to the world, and help us write the next great chapter in the story of Northern Ireland. Thank you.
Eva Carja, and good morning, everybody. It is always a great pleasure for me to be here in this building. I was just saying to Michelle, it's probably my favourite building in Belfast, and I'm always telling the team that here it's absolutely stunning. And as Teresa alluded to in her opening remarks, the history, the heritage that it represents, I think is something that we should all be very, very proud of. I firstly want to begin by expressing my congratulations to Dr. Teresa Donaldson, to Joe O'Neill, to the Belfast Harbour Commissioners and the executive team at the Harbour on reaching what is absolutely a milestone as we launch the fantastic master plan that we are here today to discuss. And as we stand here today and we look around the Harbour estate, we can see a real tangible demonstration that Belfast Harbour can successfully deliver on its strategies. And I'm absolutely confident that they will deliver again on this new master plan and continue to turn vision into reality, and a reality that can benefit not just the harbour, not just Belfast, but indeed our entire island. And I think this is a really exciting step forward in that progress. Belfast Harbour has placed a great importance on collaboration and consultation with the community, with industry, with local government, port users, estate tenants, industry experts and statutory bodies. And this has helped to shape the plan over the last 2 years, ensuring that the needs of stakeholders are listened to and that they're met, not just now, but also into the future. And in doing so, they are delivering on Belfast Harbour Commissioners' obligations as custodians of the harbour to safeguard the port for future generations. So I want to echo the comments of the First Minister and Deputy First Minister regarding the growth for our region, the pathway to net zero, and the importance of connectivity, not just for food and material goods, but for personal and family connections. This master plan aligns with the Executive's programme for government and the draft investment strategy for NI 2050, demonstrating how the harbour's long-term investment plans will support new, wider regional economic growth, infrastructure and sustainability objectives. And as highlighted by Dr. Donaldson, much of this master plan cannot be delivered without modernisation of the legislation under which our trust ports here are governed. And I recognise the importance of this legislation in addressing the Office for National Statistics classification and the impact this will have on Belfast Harbour strategic planning. My department is working in close collaboration with all of our trust ports, including Belfast, to bring about change. And I'm pleased to confirm that I have agreed a finalised draft of the Harbours Bill and intend to bring this forward to the Executive in the short-term future. And I really hope that I can get executive agreement so that we can introduce the bill to the Assembly before the summer, because I know how critical it is to support the delivery of the Masterplan. The bill's principal aim is to modernise the legislative and governance framework for our trust ports and harbour authorities, enabling them to operate more efficiently, strengthen their contribution to the regional economy, and allow them the opportunity to operate at a competitive level with other ports across Britain and Ireland. It's therefore essential that this legislation is progressed within the current mandate to secure these benefits without delay. So, as the Minister for Infrastructure, I'm very pleased to be here to support the vision of the Masterplan and to work closely with Belfast Harbour so that we can see it being fully realised. This Masterplan is an example of the ability and vision of the people in this region, in the continued development and building of our infrastructure. So I really look forward to seeing these plans becoming a reality and to working with you all. So Garmila Mayogov, thank you all very much.
Very much to our ministers, the First and Deputy First Minister and indeed the Infrastructure Minister. So fabulous to hear such resounding support and confidence from our key political figures. Collaboration really is the key, and I did love the First Minister's comment there. We're here for it, we're ready for it. That's what it was. Now, their chairs are being got ready for our panel, which is coming up shortly. But before that, we're going to hear from the Belfast Harbour's Chief Executive, Joe O'Neill. And just as he makes his way up to the stage, let's turn our attention to the screens now for one more time. We have a short video for you now showing just how far the harbour has come in its journey over the past 400 years. So we're going to look back, first of all, which will then allow us to see all that we've achieved to now, and then we'll hear what's coming next.
This place, this blustery, breathtaking place, has seen some change. 400 years ago, Belfast Harbour was just a mudflat with a tidal waterway. Then came the merchants, the engineers and the dockers, and the ambition to build something that would connect Belfast to the rest of the world. They dug the Victoria Channel by hand. They built the yards that launched the largest ships ever made. They turned a river into a gateway. Through 2 world wars, through the Troubles, through boom and hardship, this place kept working. In 1998, we welcomed peace, and within a few years, this place started to transform. The cranes were still here, but so were the cruise ships, film studios, world-class tourist attractions, Grade A offices where derelict docks once stood. £500 million invested. This harbour has always moved goods. Now it was starting to shape lives. Not bad for a mudflat. But the next chapter, that's not mine to tell.
I grew up in this city, and like most who grew up here, I didn't think much about the harbour. It was just there, working, quietly holding everything together. But look at what's coming next. Belfast Harbour has just published a plan, a master plan actually. And what it promises for us all is something else. Almost £1.3 billion invested in the port over the next 25 years, on the berths and quays that will keep trade growing. on a new home for the cruise ships that Belfast has come to love, on new facilities to help deliver offshore wind energy, to power homes and businesses, on supporting thousands of new homes by 2035, along with new workplaces, new public spaces, bringing more of this waterfront to life for everyone. The scale of what's planned here, it's hard to get your head around. But it translates, eventually, into real things, real jobs, real opportunity. It's the apprentice starting her first day at the Maritime Skills Academy, the family moving into a new home on the waterfront, the farmer whose food reaches supermarket shelves through this harbour, the chef sourcing ingredients that arrived here this morning, your best mate coming home on the Stena Line ferry, the businesses here and right across the region that depend on this port to reach their customers and their markets. Belfast Harbour has always thought further ahead than most, not just for now, for the people who come after us. This is what that looks like. And they're only getting started.
So, good morning, everyone, and can I add my warm words of welcome and thank you for joining us this morning for our 2050 Masterplan launch. For those of you who have supported us over the last couple of years at events here, you know that we in Belfast Harbour love a good video. And videos have been referenced this morning, and we're not going to disappoint you. We have a number of videos this morning, and we don't really make an apology for it. The cynics may say it saves 1,000 of our words, but if we, joking aside, this is an organisation you've heard this morning. It's got a rich heritage. You heard Dan talking about going back 400 years. It's got a vibrant current trading profile, and it's got wonderful opportunities identified ahead. And videos are truthfully the best way of capturing that past, present, and future, as Sarah referred to. So please do enjoy the videos. We had our staff town hall yesterday where we shared the videos and the Masterplan journey and where we're at with all of our teams. And we talked a lot yesterday about our predecessors and what they handed to us as the current port. We talked about what we are doing with the port today on a day-to-day operational and development basis. And we also talked about our successors and what it is we would like to hand this port and estate over to as our successors. And the Minister's mentioned changes to legislation. Really welcome it. Thank you, Minister, and thank you to the Executive for supporting our journey for us and all of the trust ports in achieving some legislative change. And of course, there's complexity and detail in legislation, as there is in our guidance. But strip all of that away, there's this very, very simple thing, and Teresa referred to it as we are tasked here with simply receiving this port, looking after it in good stewardship, and handing it over, most importantly, in a better condition to our next generations. And this is what we are setting out to do in this master plan. Why is that important? Because, as you'll hear later, at the end of all of this investment, we are delivering infrastructure here that will be operational by the turn of the next century. So it's not a 5-year, 10-year journey. It is a journey which is delivering infrastructure, perhaps up to 100 years, but certainly to the turn of the next century. And that's crucially important that we plan ahead and we get the delivery of that infrastructure right. So a lot of the words, or numbers, sorry, have been circulated and referred to in the various ministerial speeches this morning. So I can move through this quite quickly and share with you a little bit of detail on the journey that we've been on. So the backdrop to all of this. One of my favourite lines from Dan in the video, referring to how they dug by hand the channel 200 years ago, or just under 200 years ago, was they turned the river into a gateway. And this is what this gateway does. A lot of the numbers have been referenced this morning, so I'm not going to take time to repeat them. But I'm going to pick the 6 headings here. Some of you, unfortunately, in the back perhaps mightn't see the headings, but if I talk about the headings, because they're embodied in the master plan and the delivery of the master plan. So scale and reach. You've heard the big numbers, the 70%, the 25%, etc. What we're saying in this master plan is we have significant scale. That does give us effectively significant economies of scale. But we've got a land bank here which is capable of being exploited further to support the economic growth of this region and for the eastern seaboard. You can clearly see and hear about the economic impact for us If you're supporting 15% of Northern Ireland's gross value add, hugely important that you respect and protect that and do as much to help it flourish. Jobs and opportunities, 17% of the jobs in Northern Ireland depend on the trade coming through here. 20,000 of those jobs are here in the estate itself, and we see significant growth opportunities as we embark on delivering the master plan. Top, regeneration investment, clearly important. We've heard a lot around what else needs to be planned for here, but at the heart of this is a very significant investment and regeneration in building not just economic capacity here for the region, but also building a new community. And we've put a lot of effort into preparing for the growth of a new community here. Sustainability and innovation, hopefully you've been recognised. We've been a very innovative organisation over the last couple of years. Sustainability is at the heart of everything we do. From an operational perspective, on track to be first net zero port for so-called Scope 1 and Scope 2 in the next couple of years. And a target that we set a number of years ago, which is for each of our built product, for each of our infrastructure investments, we are targeting the very highest sustainability credentials. There are economic consequences, but we're saying, no, we need to find a way of delivering those in the most economic manner, but let's not deter from the sustainability ambition. Community inclusion is something you've heard us talk about a lot. Over 1% of our operating profit each year, been allocated to our local communities, £350,000. You are going to hear a new narrative, wider narrative around our community. It's how we've done research with Housing Executive, Ulster University, Turley's, McCrean Levantine Master Planners around what does success look like for building new communities, drawing on best practice from international benchmarks, the Copenhagens, the Stockholms, Oslos, etc., but also looking at our own history and our own challenges of developing new communities. And we're determined we can, with our best thoughts, get this right from the outset in terms of how we're developing that new community and delivering a safe and sustainable experience for those that will come to live and enjoy this location. Very quickly, 25-year master plan. Yes, ports of this size are obligated, are encouraged every 10 years or so to produce a 25-year outlook. As Teresa said, it's as much to share with wider stakeholders around our journey, our ambitions, and to inform and hopefully encourage collaboration of how we collectively can deliver. Also mentioned this morning, we set out in virtual terms across the virtual desk all of the growth agendas and development agendas for the NI Executive, the UK Government, for looked at what's happening across Belfast City Council with our local development plan, with a renewable energy strategy for here, offshore wind, clean energy hubs, TOUR's ambitions to grow to 2 billion of revenue by 2035. All of those were on the virtual desk, and we said, how can we play a role through our investment in regeneration and redevelopment to deliver the ambition that wider society has for this region and beyond. No surprise, it has to be flexible. This is our snapshot today of what we think it'll look like and what we will require to invest in, but we promise to keep this under constant revision. Probably every 5 years we'll take a repeat and rinse, as they call it, look at that, because we are alive to how the world is changing at such pace and with such unpredictability. So we will remain agile and flexible to tailoring this plan and its investments to suit the best regulation markets and technology, as the slide refers to. And this is very much just around bringing clarity to all of you in the room around our ambitions, and then partnering with you to see how we can collectively deliver that ambition. It's as clear a picture as we can form at this time for this port and the state over the next 25 years. Not going into all of the detail here, but again, just to state, 2 years ago, 25 months ago actually, when we sat down to go on this journey, we said we had one ambition, that was to deliver the best-in-class engagement and consultation process to deliver this master plan. Something that went way beyond anything we've ever done before. And I hope you in this room, because you are, a lot of you, the stakeholders that we engaged in, I hope you felt that you had the opportunity to air your views to us, and we heard, and are playing that back to you today and in the future. We appointed Haskonian, global port consultancy practice, which is just fresh off delivering a master plan for Southampton and Portsmouth, and we've engaged with them. Really rewarding experience. We engaged with Deloitte to look at our real estate opportunities, particularly across residential and logistics. We did our own internal research, and then we sat down with a lot of you in the room. So every major customer, I hope, can say here, we engaged with you, often more than once, because we wanted to hear, and we heard sometimes from you, we'd like to understand more, we'd like to bring more of our teams, operational teams, into these meetings so we can clearly articulate what we think we will require going forward. Then we talked about the estate, 2,000 acres, so 70% of that land that's held under lease and license by tenants, we engage with those. And not quite all, but almost all of our tenants we engage with as well to inform this plan. We mapped out 230 stakeholders. We've had a process of engagement by various means. That's as wide as it could be to port customers, tenants, government, local business, local councils, education, etc. We held 50 briefings between the end of November through to mid-January, and we did 4 public events. Outworking of all of that, 46 responses to our master plan, 95% of them positive. The other 5% was not to be interpreted as negative, but more just saying, how are you going to do this and how do we get on and do it? So brilliant to that level of positivity and that mandate to take things forward. Really importantly, we had cross-political support. So thank you to all of the political parties for responding and supporting us in such an encouraging manner. I think you bought in and saw the vision of what we were trying to do collectively for the city and the region, and that also includes Belfast City Council's endorsement. And we believe we've got a clear mandate to take this forward. So I need to, first of all, pause at this time and say thank you to all of you. You've been on a journey. You just haven't arrived in today to learn about this master plan. You've been on a journey with us. Thank you for your support, your perseverance in some cases, and hopefully your partnership as we take it forward. And from a personal perspective, on behalf of the executive, I also need to thank the chair and the board for their support over the last 24 years. 24 years, it wasn't that long. 24 months. It may have felt like 24 years, but 24 months. So thank you for your support and commitment to the delivery of this plan. Details graph, don't worry about too much of the small print and the small lines. As any master plan does, it's a wide range of scenarios from low growth, declining growth, steady growth, flatlining, high growth and exceptional growth. And we went through all of those iterations, and there's a world of spreadsheets and Kyle's work in behind these here. Just going to focus on the steady growth scenario today. That steady growth says, under normal and continuing economic circumstances, the 24 million tonnes that we handle today will increase by a third, up to just under 32 million tonnes by 2050. As you heard earlier, under some of our high growth scenarios, that could go to 50. That could be a doubling of our port trade. Important that we remain alive to the potential for that doubling of port trade, and we get ahead of the curve in providing the port infrastructure. That trade growth is not all going to be consistent and equal across all our sectors. You can just see in the bottom right, as you're looking at it, some little symbols there. Our bulk traffic is not forecast to grow. It's actually flatlining to 8 million tonnes. There's a story within that. Liquid bulk will decline. So our petrol, our diesel, our kerosene will decline as we decarbonise our economy and our society. But we make up for that with other improved trades and increased trades in some of our so-called dry bulk sector. Grain and animal feeds are a really important sector for us, fertilisers, other commodities. But it will broadly flatline. So the important thing is just maintaining facilities and capacity for today's tonnage. The large increase in tonnage is coming from the growth. We call it unit load, but that's ferry traffic and container traffic to you. That's where the principal growth is, and that's where you'll see our investments in ferry terminals and container terminals. We got a lovely piece of self-certification, if I may call it that, partway through this. So June last year, the Department of Transport in London, produced a 25-year growth trajectory for all UK ports. Sat down, we were halfway through the journey with Asconian on the planning, and we compared them and contrasted, and we were glad to say there was really strong alignment between DFT's growth forecasts and our growth estimates. And they're informed by the economic outlook, together with insights from US port customers and tenants. As we heard, this is primarily around the port. It's a £1.3 billion investment into providing the port capacity for that, potentially 32 million tonnes, potentially up as much as 50 million tonnes. And it's across 3 horizons, which I'll very, very briefly refer to. That's not ignoring the estate and the regeneration opportunities that Deloitte worked with us on. We've identified many opportunities, about £500 million to £750 million of ongoing regeneration, principally around housing, and particularly Belfast City Council's ambition to house 3,500 homes, or have 3,500 homes here by the mid-2030s, and logistics warehousing opportunities. An ambition which we continue to deliver on, to deliver that regeneration, but we recognise there will be different funding requirements and models required to deliver that scale of ambition, whilst we are committed, first and foremost, to delivering the port capacity. So we've dialed up port capacity because that's the most important thing for today in terms of future provision of port, supporting infrastructure for our economy. But please don't interpret that as any less ambition to continue with that regeneration and building that new community that we talked about this morning. We just need to find ways of doing that, and the continued development of City Quays, Titanic Quarter, and other parts of the estate. 3 horizons. First horizon we're well and truly delivering on. That's that £313 million 5-year strategy we launched last year. 200 million for port, 100 million, just over 100 million for our estate. You know the projects. We're hopefully demonstrating immediate delivery against that ambition. £90 million, our largest ever contract awarded for building a new deep-water quay for cruise and opportunity for more capacity for offshore wind. And bringing forward planning applications for Clarendon Wharf, 600 homes, etc. So delivering strongly against that. The next phase, Horizon 2, just under £500 million of investment in the port, accelerating ambition. And then the final phase, long-term ambition, over £500 million worth of investment. As I said, Horizon 1, hopefully you've seen us tangibly delivering against that, and that gives you confidence for our commitment to deliver the subsequent horizons. Horizon 2, 2030 to 2040, the big ticket project here is rebuild of Stormont Wharf. 1 kilometre long, longest deep water berth in any port in Ireland, built in the 1960s, soon approaching obsolescence. Hugely important for the support of that dry bulk trade, grain and animal feeds I talked about. Will be a major challenge from both a consenting and delivery perspective, and a cost to deliver that and keep things operational. So we've started with our project teams dialed up already for that. We're starting to make our plans for it, and we see the physical delivery of that project in early 2030s. We'll also see the development of significant further logistics warehousing to support the economy. Shore power, from our sustainability perspectives, it is challenging to provide shore power for vessels berthed here because of economics and utility provision, but we expect by then there will be a solution, market and government-led solution found, and we'll start to implement that, as well as delivering the homes at scale by mid this horizon. 2040, 2050, looking a little bit further ahead, £578 million of investment. This is where we do really kick in if some of the other ports, as on the eastern seaboard, as they are saying, are going to be house full, that they are capacity constrained and limited. This is our golden opportunity. And if we realise a higher growth ambition here in the Northern Ireland economy, and or those opportunities emerge on that eastern seaboard, we will need to provide additional ferry and container capacity. We envisage at least reclamation of another 50 acres of land beyond the standard terminals and the container terminals. And we're flexible at this moment in time whether that will be containers or ferry, but there will be a need for additional capacity if we're to satisfy overarching port capacity demands. Shore power will continue to be developed, and just to recap, anything we do at this moment in time is going to last beyond 2100. One single bullet point, but can't be emphasised enough, partnership. We've clear that this is our plan internal to the Harbour State, but we do not want it to be internal to the Harbour State. There are a massive number of critical enabling factors that are required outside of the state in terms of road infrastructure, utility infrastructure, wastewater. We're not skirmishing over all of those. We have engaged with all of those people within road service, Eastern Transport Plan, Northern Ireland Electricity Networks, NI Water. We've engaged with everyone. We've made them all aware of our plans. They're not solutions for all of this, but at least those organisations can feed in what is our ambition and what may be required to support that infrastructure and utility. So very quickly, 1 minute, just fly through of what this port may look like by 2050. Going above our bird's nest here at City Quays, looking out over new cross-harbour cycle and pedestrian bridge, our Clarendon Wharf scheme on the left-hand developed, our marina, handling just about 175 vessels. Titanic Quarter in all likelihood won't be absolutely fully developed out, but it will be substantially developed out by 2050. There's 100 acres more land to be developed there, so requires a significant economic growth to support that. Rebuild of Stormont Wharf, our 1 kilometre long deep water port. On the right hand side, slightly hidden, hopefully an Avantia shipbuilding, flourishing ship repair activity here on the right hand side. Then as we go out through our turning circle to D1, it's the return of offshore wind from 2029, supporting Northern Ireland's offshore wind ambitions, Irish Sea ambitions, UK ambitions, so significant scale activity here. We will have deepened and provided additional berthing capacity for the next generation of container vessels. On the right-hand side, we have D3, that £90 million project supporting cruise growth and turnaround business and offshore wind, and then just disappearing on the left-hand side. That's our land reclamation for, depicted in the video as containers, but could be ferry capacity. So that's just a very quick fly through. I heard earlier today, what does this look like in economic terms? Roughly another £10 billion on a steady growth in trade through here, about a 33% increase from 26 billion of trade to 36 in today's pounds. And gross value add increasing again by about 33% from just under £9 billion that we heard about earlier to £12 billion. Could go as high as 15 to 16 under our high growth scenarios. So again, really significant economic opportunity emerging here. And then we heard about our jobs, just under 5,500 construction jobs. That's before we get into the jobs that will be supported through the facilities that we build. And that's the timeline for how we see those 5,500 jobs supported, hugely important to the construction sector. And then finally, this is the first time we've talked about this in the master plan and around the tables in here, where we do see a clear opportunity to position this port as the principal port on the Dublin-Belfast economic corridor, as the 9 councils on the eastern seaboard working together through this economic corridor. As that gains momentum, there's undoubtedly going to be trade opportunities emerging. There will be a requirement for port capacity, and our scale and reach, our ambition, our balance sheet, the legislative context we have, provides a brilliant opportunity for us to be the primary port supporting that growth of the Dublin-Belfast economic corridor. And that is it, ladies and gentlemen, in a 5 minutes. Thank you.
Wow. Wow, absolutely incredible. A stunning, exciting and bold master plan, I'm sure you'll agree. Incredible just to see the projections of what it will actually look like. And of course, all underpinning that ambition to be handing the port and the harbour over to the next generation in a better state than it's in now. So let's get into it a little deeper now. And as you've probably guessed, there's going to be a panel discussion now. And I'm delighted to hand over to my former colleague at the BBC when I was there. He's still there. The BBC Northern Ireland's economic and business editor, John Campbell, is here today to lead on this panel. Joe is on the panel, but also we're going to invite Dr. Teresa Donaldson, of course, our chair of Belfast Harbour Commissioners, back to the stage. And Declan Freeman is joining us. He is the MD of Container and Terminal Division, ICG. Also, we're joined and delighted to have Kirsty McManus, Nations Director for Northern Ireland, the IOD, and board member of Intertrade UK. So I'm going to hand over to John now. I'll exit the stage. And John, exciting plans ahead?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you very much indeed, Sarah. Cheers. We'll put a bit of musical chairs here. So, when I was preparing for today's event, I was reading quite a lot about what are known as halo businesses, H-A-L-O. Anybody heard of halo businesses, what they are? No, so they're nothing to do with angel investing. They're nothing to do with light bulbs. What they are really about is finding a contrary investment case to AI. Because if you think AI is going to completely disrupt some industries and some businesses which are based on code, which are based on very light assets, some of those businesses or those sectors may not exist in 5, 10, 20 years' time. So it's about trying to find the contrary to those. And those are what are known as heavy asset, low obsolescence businesses. So businesses which are built to a large degree on steel and concrete, not on code, and which in most circumstances, if well stewarded, these are businesses which will endure virtually forever. And I cannot think of a better example of a halo business than Belfast Harbour. Because when you think about heavy assets, you just have to reflect what we saw in those videos there. 2,000 acres of real estate, miles of deep water quay, and even being in this building, you do get this sense of how these assets have been acquired and built and stewarded over hundreds of years. And then in terms of low obsolescence, we heard very clearly from Joe there how that's not just about saying we're going to do the same things we've always done, but it's about pivoting to reflect those changes in the economy. So really what we're reflecting on here now is how a halo business like Belfast Harbour can be stewarded, not just for the next 25 years, but frankly for hundreds of years to come virtually. So I'll start with you actually, Chair, when we think about the governance this plan. Because again, as I was reading, governance is important because you're right all the way back to when the ballast board became the harbour commissioners. That was effectively about a big change in governance here. So thinking on a 25-year programme, how do you ensure the board keeps that ambitious but also accountable?
It's a good question because it is a very long-term vision. But I think as Joe has already highlighted in his presentation, and as I mentioned as well, the Horizon 1 is actually our corporate plan, which we're well into, advancing regional prosperity. The board has got really well-defined systems and processes for accountability, as you can imagine. I don't know if you've seen our board, but we have a lot of very well-seasoned leaders, young, not old, leaders on the board who are very experienced and who are very, very keenly committed to the job that we have here. So in terms of our board and committee meetings, our operational plan that drops out of that, our strategy dashboard that we review at every board meeting, I have regular one-to-ones with Joe, so there is a very clear line of accountability for what we're currently doing. And that will then morph into the longer term. I would expect probably be the next board that's appointed, because some of us will end our term in 2029. That will then review the corporate plan, that's what you do, and we'll review the master plan at that point as well, and take the whole process of horizon scanning. I think Joe mentioned that. You've got to take account of the context you're working in, because the world is changing. And you've mentioned AI, but there are many other changes. I mean, renewable energy is coming on stream. That has a big impact in terms of shipping. Shore power, all these different developments which are very welcome, but which we will need to take account of at each juncture. Bite-sized pieces of every 5 years, Joe mentioned probably the timescale, but those systems and processes I've mentioned, which are already in place, will be the ones that will be effective and ensure we remain on stream and ambitious as a board,
and
which is what we currently are.
It is designed with flexibility in mind as well.
Yeah, so it's that agility to make sure that what we provide is what our customers and our stakeholders and our communities need. I mean, we currently are quite clear about what the needs are, but as time goes on, those needs will change, and there is flexibility built into the plan to allow for that.
Joe, as I was preparing for this yesterday, I took the opportunity to take a walk just from the Big Fish over the bridge down as far as Titanic Belfast. And there were two things which really struck me on that walk. Firstly, at Queen's Quay there, where we have the now award-winning kiosk coffee place. And there's a guy just very unself-consciously sitting having his coffee, strumming a guitar, and then walking on down to where Loft Lines is, and I could see somebody obviously delighted on their balcony, FaceTiming their view to somebody from their new apartment. So it really struck me of, wow, this is actually a living place. Obviously all the focus we've had today, or the majority of the focus, is about the harbour as a working port. How do you balance those two, that real sense of place I was experiencing yesterday with this working port?
Yeah, it's a really good question. It's a really good challenge. I said in the presentation that it's the first time a master plan has been produced which talked about the Dublin-Belfast economic corridor. I believe it's probably the first time that we've had a master plan of whatever ilk in the history of this organisation that has got a primary focus around place as well, and building new communities. And that's part of that historical transition from redeveloping former industrial sites into new communities, with a clear alignment with the Belfast City Council growth plan. That's an opportunity. It's a challenge. It's one we have responded to positively, because we want to, as I said in my presentation, get absolutely right as to how do we develop a successful new community in an area where people historically have not lived. Thousands and thousands have worked and have visited on a limited basis, but not lived. And that's why we did invest 2 years ago with the board, sitting ahead and saying, if we're building a new community, let's get it right from the blank page. And that successful communities piece of work with a wide group of stakeholders who could share best practice insights with us. It's around how we've developed and shaped our police into a community policing model, because we recognise there is still a core policing function for the port, but more and more our police needs to be scaled and skilled, and have policing plans which are tailored for community support as well, so we can create vibrant but safe and sustainable communities. So place, we have, back to Teresa talked about our committee structure, one of our board subcommittees is property and place, because we respect and recognise the importance of place beyond just property transactions.
But at the same time, that's like assuring people like our next speaker that you're not squeezing out some of those core functions in favour of real estate development.
Yeah, and I've said this in some of the media stuff. It's one of the huge benefits of this organisation over overarching management and stewardship of this estate is that we can take those collective decisions which are in the best interests of port customers, particularly from a protection perspective, that we will recognise where there may be challenges if we put something from a regeneration perspective too close to port operations. So we'll take the appropriate overarching decisions to manage that in the best interests of the port, but at the same time delivering regeneration.
So one of those customers, Declan Freeman, MD of the Container and Terminal Division at ICG. Could you just, for starters, give us a sense of the scale and the scope of what ICG does in Belfast?
Yeah, in Belfast, we have the pleasure of running the container terminal here in Belfast, Belfast Container Terminal. So we're running that here since 2015 with a concession from Belfast Harbour. The throughput there is about 125,000 units annually on the terminal, and would account for about 20% of the overall Lolo trade on and off the island of Ireland. So it's a key gateway for the market in Northern Ireland, a key gateway for importers and exporters moving product on and off the Northern Ireland through the port in Northern Ireland. What I like about the plan, and it's great to see, the backdrop here, a lovely picture of the Belfast Container Terminal, newly developed and newly designed. And it's probably a testament to the harbour's, delivery investment over the years. The plan itself, I think it's a well thought out plan.
Yeah, because I was going to say, in terms of some of the specifics around what it would mean for reliability, for cost, capacity, supply chains, how does it start to kind of hit those important areas?
Yeah, it does. It's a well thought out plan, as I said, and the different horizons are there: Horizon 1, Horizon 2, and Horizon 3. And I think it's important in a plan to have adaptability. You need to be able to bring investments forward or push investments out based on the demand that is there. With port development, the timeliness of development is really important. It's these are big investments that have to happen, and you have to have a foresight to put the infrastructure in place. Mm-hmm. So it's really important that that timeliness is got right, and you deliver an efficient operating port. That's really important for supply chains to have an efficient port to move the product through.
Yeah.
I would say that in relation to port primacy, I saw mentioned there, it's an important thing for port users. Mm-hmm. Port primacy, I saw a comment from Joe, that it is and will continue to be an important, the most important factor in the port development, which is really important. And I saw it on his slide as well. It was up in red on his slide, yeah, which was good to see. So that's really important for port users. Mm-hmm. That the trade going through the port is so important, and to have infrastructure in place to service that trade into the future is of critical importance to port users.
I suppose though potentially one of the issues for you is the harbour can do so much in infrastructure, but not everything, and that there are parts of the infrastructure which fundamentally fall to partner organisations.
Indeed, yes. The harbour has a fantastically well thought out plan within the boundaries of the port estate. It's a huge estate, 2,000 acres, and it's great to have a land bank like that. Other ports would be jealous of that, the land bank that the harbour has. But it's great having a really modern and efficient port, but you have to get to the port. Part of the supply chain is the port, and a big part of the supply chain is in the hinterland. Mm-hmm. And that's sort of the road infrastructure and getting to and from the port. And the harbour can have a very ambitious plan in developing the harbour estate, but it needs to be aligned and matched by the Northern Ireland economy overall. Mm-hmm. in matching that with improving the infrastructure to get to and from the port. One of the sort of main arteries that will come with a lot of conversation will be the York Street interchange.
Yeah.
It's a big piece of infrastructural investment that's probably required to unlock probably the value in the port going forward.
Joe, are you able to pick up on that? Has there been any sense from government about where the York Street interchange is in all this now?
Yeah, it's a point really well made by Declan. There are a number of critical enablers. We don't quite rank them in the master plan, but York Street interchange is right up there as one of the most important critical enablers for our delivery, ultimate delivery of our master plan, particularly as you get through Horizon 2 and into Horizon 3. We haven't ignored it. It's been a clear and consistent aspect of our considerations for planning for the master plan. Important for us during the master planning consultation process was to share the growth ambitions with the road service, with the Eastern Transport Plan team in particular, and to continue to advocate with DFI and that wider team of roads engineers and others around the critical importance of, at the earliest opportunity, deliver the York Street scheme. We understand there's been procurement challenges, there's been some planning challenges, and ultimately there will no doubt be a cost delivery challenge, but our support is into DFI to say, please deliver this at the earliest opportunity, clearly aligned with our growth ambition.
I think that leads us nicely on to Kirsty McManus from the IOD. Kirsty, if we think of this in kind of much broader terms, outside of the port business itself, and in a macro context, what does the master plan potentially unlock for Northern Ireland's competitiveness?
Well, firstly, can I commend the chair, the wider board and the executive for their stewardship and ambition for this master plan. I think we all agree in the audience this is the ambition that we need for Northern Ireland. So, well, I think Belfast Harbour is the principal maritime gateway for GB, for Ireland and those global markets. So this investment is fundamental for that supply chain resilience, that cost competitiveness, and giving those signals to investors as well too. We've heard the Belfast Harbour facilitates 26 billion of trade every year with ambitions to get to 36 billion. I would say Belfast Harbour is the economic powerhouse for Northern Ireland, so really, really important. I think for me, the master plan also secures Harbour's position within the Dublin-Belfast economic corridor. And as a board member for Intertrade UK, which is looking at strengthening those connections, it strengthens that connection with GB as well. But this is welcome investment for all of our manufacturers, our agri-food businesses, our retailers, and sends a strong signal to the business community, but also the community as well, that Belfast Harbour will continue to deliver, and we've seen that strong track record. So congratulations to the team involved, and it's excellent to see that. So,
what I would like to do now is actually just open this out to the floor to some extent, because of course, for an organisation without shareholders, it's the stakeholders, you, who are very important in this whole conversation, as we heard you have been throughout. We have a couple of roaming mics, so if you do have a question, stick your hand up. Let us know who you are, wait for the mic to come to you, and if you want to direct your question to any particular panellist, then let us know about that as well. So, do we have anybody? Yeah, Claire?
Thanks very much. Thank you. I mean, it's just a really exciting. I'm totally energised by what I've heard this morning, and it's just brilliant that we had so many ministers and our First and Deputy here to hear too. So I, again, want to commend you and congratulate you on the ambition and the transformative plan that has been delivered this morning. But now I'm going to move to delivery. So the port primacy point is well made, Declan, and that's great to see that landed in. But I suppose from Belfast Chamber's perspective, we'd be delighted to see the residential regeneration. And it's a big aim, 3,500 homes, phenomenal. New communities, thinking of the multiplier effect that would have across all sectors in our city economy. And of course, another halo, any time that big positive things happen in Belfast, John, they happen all over the region. So it's really exciting. So I suppose, Joe, I was going to ask you in terms of, I think it was your second stage was about accelerating that ambition and accelerating that. What can the business community, Belfast Chamber and others do to help you accelerate delivery of those 3,500 homes?
Yeah, I suppose maybe just bring it back to some numbers and the credibility of delivery against those numbers. So quick recap, Belfast City Council has an ambition to deliver 30,600 homes for inner city living. 13% of those homes are envisaged to be in the Harbour Estate, 3,500 homes. Most of them in TQ to Town Quarter, but some in around the Clarendon area. That's not a lofty number that has no chance of being attained here in the Harbour Estate. We have Loughline's been populated as we speak, 778 apartments, We have planning permission for City Quays 4, 256 apartments. We're well through a very positive planning experience for securing planning for out this window here for 600 homes in Clarendon. Those 3 schemes alone will deliver half of that 3,500 home ambition. So the challenge for us then is developing and identifying and bringing forward further sites, most likely in the Titanic Quarter area for delivery. So we are well on track for providing that 3,500 homes here. At an early point, we're confident around the delivery. We've got our consenting, the utilities, etc. is all lined up. Undoubtedly, as we get into Horizon 2 and some of the latter part of that ambition, we will need support from others to coalesce around us to identify some of the issues that will be undoubtedly present in terms of wastewater, etc., some of the Northern Ireland water challenges. So it's a supportive voice for us as we drive forward that ambition to, as a minimum, meet that ambition for 3,500 homes in the estate.
Tracy, you want to come in that? Yeah.
Yeah, because building new communities is not an easy thing, and it's not something that Belfast Harbour has ever done. And it's a conversation we as a board have had around the board table. We've 4 Belfast City councillors sitting around the board table, obviously taking a very keen interest in terms of what's happening in relation to developing new communities, but also the wider government structures, the health and social care, education. How will these communities be provided for social care? We really need to have those conversations at the same time as we're talking about the bricks and mortar. Mm-hmm. It is about the people and the kind of lives they will have. Some will have fabulous lives, but some of the housing will be social housing, and we need to make sure that the provision is there for those people coming with whatever their needs are into this area, and to make sure that Declan's point that port is our prime concern, that nothing gets in the way of port primacy, and we've given that reassurance to our customers, but we'll be working very closely with our partners across government to make sure that those issues are dealt with as the communities develop.
Kirsty, we heard there from Joe the dread words wastewater.
Yes.
As the IOD and the other business organisations, constantly talking to government about this, do you get any sense that there's any more room for manoeuvre beyond the fairly modest measures which have been announced?
We launched a report earlier this year, and we're starting that engagement. We had really good engagement yesterday with Minister Moore. So all we can do, John, is facilitate those conversations. We are lucky in that we have a wealth of expertise across the UK that we can tap into and learn from that best practice. So I think I have to be eternally optimistic that we can get there, because I think at the end of the day, we're seeing the housing supply, meaning rents are increasing, and the pressure on families who are struggling in a cost of living crisis. And to unlock that, I think we do need to set that ambition. So we're very much working in support and partnership with government, and I think we will get there. I do. I'm pretty positive.
Anyone else from the floor? If you show me your hand, and a mic will come to you. Yeah, over here.
Richard Connor, I'm Vice Chair of Coleraine Harbour Commissioners. Coleraine is a very proud sister organisation of our colleagues here in Belfast. We sit under the Trustport model, which would namely be Foyle, Belfast, Warrenpoint and Coleraine. I love the heritage angle there this morning. I'm sure the room will be fascinated to know that Coleraine Harbour is about 2 decades older than Belfast. But whenever I suppose when your organisations are 400 years old, sure, what's a decade either side? Again, just what everybody was saying, and for the room, certainly from our own much smaller harbours board's point of view, we're in awe of where your team has taken Belfast Harbour to presently. And again, to clearly state it, we're further in awe of where you're going, and that strategy is amazing, and the ambition that's being shown there. I'll get on to my question here, so Coleraine Harbour has some ambitious plans of our own, but as for all 4 trust ports, we're operating basically with one hand behind our backs because of the outdated legislation and accounting practices. So my question is really, what message would the panel give to the politicians in the room here today about how removing these restrictive barriers could empower all of the trust ports across Northern Ireland to realise on their own master plans?
Yeah, 'cause I don't know whether Joe or Teresa want to take that, but I suppose we're in the. It is important to say that although this has been driven by Belfast Harbour, this change in legislation would affect all the trust ports in Northern Ireland. Yeah.
Sure. Yes, the reclassification will provide huge economic opportunity for the ports and the regions that they serve. And I mean, Richard, we've talked about this, the city deal in Causeway Coast and Glens. SIB are doing work in the area, and obviously with the university, I mean, there's a lovely mix of potential real growth in an area, and reclassification will be the cherry on the cake, the icing on the cake. So, I mean, I can't speak for Foyle or Warren Point, but I know they have huge ambition as well. So yes, it's a regional opportunity, and we're just hoping, as the Minister has said, that it moves forward at a pace. Thank you.
And Joe, it does appear that there is now a political consensus that this is something which is not to be feared. And
yes, there's been strong political support for it. We needed that to translate into draft legislation, and then that draft legislation to be endorsed to go around the executive table to enable it to go into the Committee for Infrastructure. Mm-hmm. Thankfully, that is making really good progress. It's almost day-by-day updates now, mm-hmm. and today's news was new today from the Minister to say that she's endorsed it, and it will go forward to the executive table, around the executive table for hopefully endorsement by the end of this month, and then into the committee stages. I think everyone accepts that if you fail to get something into committee before the summer recess, then you're going to be challenged to come out before the end of this mandate. So delighted that it looks to be going to the executive table, hopefully support it in May and enable it to go into the Committee for Infrastructure in June time.
And it doesn't cost any minister anything.
That's the beauty of this one, yes.
Did you want to come in?
Yeah, I just want to say that the business community is right behind the four ports. I think this is a unlock of further growth and potential for Warren Point, for Coleraine, for Belfast and Foyle. So we will certainly keep that accountability that it's delivered on time by the end of the mandate.
I think we will have time maybe for one more from the floor if there's anybody else with a burning question. Yeah, gentleman here.
Yeah, hi. Shane Reenan, CEO of Retech Offshore, based out of Dundalk, and also a member of DBEC on the panel for technology and innovation. Just a quick question maybe to Joe and to Declan. Obviously, as we represent technology and infrastructure, I'm just wondering, is the question being asked in the relevant plans for infrastructure and looking at potential security issues when it comes to technology? You know, we're all going to automation, we're going to unmanned vessels, we're going to that. Obviously, my background is in offshore wind, and we see it a lot of the ports is redynamics of maybe cybersecurity, infrastructure, and how we protect it. Is that something that maybe Joe has discussed, or even from an industry perspective, that Declan would see?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. Do you want to go first on that, Declan? You know, there's, you know, as we move towards kind of more automation in some of those operations, there is this question of, well, how is this secured? Because we have seen so many cyber incidents where it can be ruinous to a business.
Mm. Yeah, just the first part of the question about automation, yes, like we are engaging with automation, and the terminal here in Belfast, you know, the first phase of that is up and running. You know, we have remote control semi-automated cranes in Belfast here operating in the backyard. So that's basically the moves in the stacks are being done by the crane automatically, and the driver is actually not in the cab; he's in the office, remote from the cranes. So look, we have a lot of dependency on cyber. You know, we have, you know, plans in place with an ICU group. We have, you know, more divisions than the terminals division. We have Ferries division as well, and you know, we would have policies in place to ensure that our systems are you know, as bulletproof as they can be in relation to any potential cyber attacks. We would have third-party partners there that will be assisting us with that as well. So we take outside expertise as well to assist us in that matter.
Joe? Yeah, it's a really good question. Actually, probably should have highlighted cybersecurity more strongly in the plan. So we are critical national infrastructure, so we are and have very well developed and refined cybersecurity protocols. Slightly reluctant to use the word robust because something will happen tomorrow morning in that regard, but genuinely, and all joking aside, They are robust, they are tested literally on an ongoing basis, 24/7. We have our scenario analysis around business contingency events around cyber attacks. Hopefully we are recognised as showing good leadership in this space, because the National Cyber Security Centre in the UK invites us over to be part of their workshops around understanding how to maintain your cyber posture, to run through scenarios around the vulnerabilities and how to be best in practice in leading edge in terms of cyber. So it is something that sits in the background. You probably wouldn't want to expect to see it, but please be assured we have very well developed and mature and always agile cyber posture here.
And of course, one of your tenants or specialists in this area as well, CSIT. Yeah, you're expanding. Thank you for those excellent and thought-provoking questions. We are now almost out of time on this panel, so what I want to do is to hand to the chair just to summarise the things we have been talking about both on the panel and throughout this event. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you very much, John. That was expertly chaired as ever. I think you heard from the panel there some really good questions. Okay. Some very good questions coming from the floor. But I think you can see from the diversity of the questions that we were being asked in terms of building residential accommodation, in terms of the port. This is a very diverse business, and hopefully you got a flavour of that through the presentations as well. So it has been a momentous event for Belfast Harbour, and hopefully you feel that as well in the room. And I just want to say very, very many thanks to everybody that we've heard from today. I want to express my gratitude. They've left us for other things, but to the Deputy First Minister and Minister for Infrastructure, and of course they told us about their priorities for the future, and Belfast Harbour is right up there, thank heavens, but also for recognising the Belfast Harbour as a cornerstone of our regional economy, and they are supporting our future role, which is what we wanted to hear, and in particular to acknowledge their support for the reclassification of our accounting status. Very many thanks to Sarah. I mean, Sarah always does a wonderful job for us, but as ever, comparing this event to John, to Declan and Kirsty, and of course to Joe in terms of his presentation. Want to thank key members of the executive team that developed the master plan, and also my colleagues on the board, many of whom are here today, who will be presiding over its delivery. So we did hear from Joe about the detail of the master plan. I think we're all going to leave this room feeling we do know it well, we know what's coming. What came from the panel was the need for accountability, for balance, port user perspective, and of course the Northern Ireland regional perspective of the plan. And the fantastic videos, hopefully you'll agree, those videos we've seen to date have brought a real feel of the port. You can't see Belfast Port. When you go to Dublin, you drive past the port, you can see it. In Belfast, you've got to go right down into it, and most people don't get that opportunity. But I felt today the videos really brought the port into the room and helped us to feel, hopefully you to feel, the excitement that we feel as a board about what has been and what will be achieved in this place going forward. I want to thank all our customers and partners. As has been said already, this master plan is a clear and confident promise for the future. We've called the master plan Horizons of Opportunity, as our commitment as Harbour Commissioners is to keep pushing that horizon outwards, expanding what is possible for Belfast Harbour, for our customers, our partners, communities, and for the wider region that we serve. We will continue, we hope, to provide the world-class infrastructure, capacity and reliability you need to invest, to grow and to succeed, and hopefully with reclassification, with no public funding, we'll keep doing this. So finally, we just want to recap the master plan and what the master plan means for the port and the people we serve in our final video, and that will close proceedings and we will move to lunch. So thank you. We're going to show one last video. Thank you.
Belfast Harbour has been at the heart of this city for nearly 2 centuries. The trade that feeds families, fuels industry and connects Northern Ireland to the world, most of it moves through here. Belfast Harbour didn't achieve that overnight. They built it by looking further ahead than most and having the courage to act on what they saw. This master plan is the evidence of that, a serious, long-term commitment already being delivered. And what comes next are horizons of opportunity.
We're not starting from scratch, we're building on something extraordinary.
Over the next 25 years, Belfast Harbour will grow its capacity for trade, for clean energy, for homes and for opportunity, right here on this waterfront. New deep water infrastructure to handle more vessels and more cargo. A new home for the cruise ships Belfast has come to love. New communities taking shape along the water's edge. By 2050, trade through this port could be more than double. The jobs, the investment, the prosperity that creates, that belongs to Belfast, to the region, to all of us.
Belfast Harbour has always delivered for everyone.
This master plan sets out exactly how we can do it again.
This is our plan.
And it starts now.